Hello, everyone. Happy Star Wars Day. Welcome to today's CUGC webinar with Liquidware. We're very excited to have them back on our stage today. Just really quickly, because I know we got started a little bit late, and sorry about that. We had some audio issues going on. Very quickly, just a reminder that we are recording today's session, and you will get a link to the recording tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Also, I want you to type your questions in the question panel as soon as you have them. We've got someone keeping an eye on those, and we're going to answer as many of those as we can today. All right, so with us today, we have Jack Smith. He is a solutions engineer with Liquidware, and we'll be joined by Jason E. Smith also. He is the VP of Products and Alliances at Liquidware. And I think Jason will come on in a little bit. He was the one having a little bit of audio trouble, so hopefully we'll hear from him in just a bit. Also with us today, we have Jake Walsh. He is a Citrix technology advocate, and he is going to keep an eye on all your questions as you have them. So I am going to go ahead and hand everything over to you, Jack. I'm sending you the screen right now. Here it comes.
All right. Yep, I think that's the right one. All right, thank you. So let's get underway on here. Boy, well, I gotta make my GoToMeeting fix that real quick. You guys can see the slides, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So I'm Jack Smith in this equation here. We'll progress the slide here. Along with me, hopefully, will be Jason Smith in a moment. No relation that we know of, actually. I call him Cousin Jason, just because you never know, right? But I'm a solutions architect here at Liquidware. I've been here for about 10 years or so, and kind of going to talk about some interesting things. And you can kind of see the title slide here is why you shouldn't tie apps or delivery to the base images. And I've got customers who do these types of things, but we're going to kind of explain what FlexApp is, what FlexApp 1 is, where it works in conjunction with the Citrix ecosystem and things like that. So let's start with, what does Liquidware do as a company? What Liquidware does is three different things. We have a visibility product called Stratosphere. It's a monitoring tool, diagnostics tool, deep dive analysis. Let's say it's a data mine. It's got tons and tons of information kind of about everything, or in more simplistic terms, it's like having sysinternal tools running all the time versus just kind of your basics. So we have a lot of detail about a lot of different things. Two, we have a product called Profile Unity, which encompasses a user environmental management and workstation management utility, as well as a layering technology called FlexApp. Now that's going to be the focus of our conversation today, is the layering technology and what that does. So getting into this a bit here, what are the application delivery challenges that most people run into? Well, the big one is base image installation, right? Traditional installation. And what that ends up resulting in is not just one or two images, but that can end up resulting in 15, 16, 20, the most I've heard of is 30 separate images for various different things. And then going to update those, you're kind of doing a repeat, right? You're cracking open the image, you're updating multiple different types of applications, things like that. So you've got multiple sprawl. And what I find is that the big difference between image 1 and image 20, if you will, is usually like 5 or 6 applications, right? At the end of the line or the last mile applications. So the point here is that if you can kind of decouple those different parts, the applications from the operating system, you can help reduce different things like downtime or your base image installs, uninstall type operating system or OS rot, as well as multiple other things. And then being able to make that base image, that single image or two, very lightweight with just some core applications. Usually I like to do, Windows updates, Office, Teams, OneDrive, because they all kind of update with Windows. And then everything else is kind of in addition to whatever is going on to the image. So being able to have far less of a kind of core operating system is the idea behind Flex. Actually, is the idea behind layering in general, was to reduce image management, reduce all of those different iterations or pools that you may need to manage. So what does that happen, or how does that happen? Well, you can have self-contained attached applications, right? Because now I'm attaching those to the operating system. I allow myself to drop those into not only a Citrix type environment, but really kind of any kind of workstation. The applications are, we'll use a Citrix term, elastic, and can be used across anything, as you can see there. Citrix, VMware, Amazon, physical, and the applications can be self-contained and deployed through other mechanisms as well with FlexApp 1. So I can use an endpoint manager or Intune type thing, VM workspace, cloud, or crazy, just throw it on a USB stick, throw it into the workstation and go. So it's kind of like the old school way of doing like an MSIX, AppV, God forbid, thin app type technology, but the applications are more near native than bubbled. And we'll get into that a little bit more here. So not really sure what this slide is, so I'm going to skip that for now. So that bubbled application, that self-contained application, that's what a FlexApp is. So it's basically taking our normal FlexApp technology, which is a VHDX file, image file, XML file, wrapping an executable around it, which contains not only the application itself or the FlexApp itself, but the engine for FlexApp as well. So it's like really a self-contained item. Including services and drivers for the thing. So it kind of like self-installs itself, albeit the first run you have to be an administrator to get the services in. Beyond that, though, those applications run as if they are native into the operating system. So I can, double click, in my case, Photoshop. I don't always want Photoshop on my workstation. I can double click and poof, I've got Photoshop on my workstation. And when I'm done, I can remove it. So I don't leave that item in the operating system. If there's like a system audit, it's just not going to show up in my admin programs because it's just not there. With this FlexApp 1 thing, I can actually distribute my FlexApps without profile unity if I wanted to. I've got some customers who have SCCM, and they're like, we would like to use the technology behind the FlexApp because we like the dynamic layering, but we want to use an SCCM or Intune technology or any sort of distro tool. So that is one of the things that we can do. We can also put these items in the cloud. So it's very easily cloud integrated, works with Azure, Google, Amazon, whether you're using their native or Citrix on those platforms. And then it streamlines the whole process of application layering methodology, whether that be through using an automation engine or doing the traditional sequencing process, next finish process or whatever happens to be. You have all those options available to you and how you can make that happen. And you can sequence the application and run them in any kind of Windows. So I could sequence it on Windows 10 and pop it over to a 2019 server. We're not limited to the operating system that created it, is only the operating system we can deliver it to. Sounds like Jason might be around.
Yeah, but let's do a sound test real quick. How do I sound?
You sound pretty good.
Okay, good.
All right, so I was right up to seamless integration. And you
So the point about being able to distribute packages with Microsoft Endpoint Manager and any other distribution or deployment solution is very easy. In this case, FlexApp 1 being a new feature, it really decouples the solution from the need to have any other Liquidware solution in the environment. So the self-contained app that you have can be plugged in here. Here we're putting in the parameters for Chrome, and then you could, if you're really in Endpoint Manager here, you could tab over and you could select the group assignments that you want to send that package to and get that package down to the desktop. You can also use in Microsoft, the company store, to make it the company portal, some apps in there, so they're self-selecting. So in a sense, they're not really there unless the user has selected them, so then they can pull them into their environment. So it gives you a lot of flexibility with mainline deployment solutions, where for basic use cases, you can really not have to rely on anything else Liquidware. In this case, I'm talking about the Profile Unity infrastructure and deployment method. But there are advanced use cases we'll look at in a minute. All right, next slide. And this application layering, as far as FlexApp goes, if you'll focus on the left side, and to recap what we're doing when we lay an application down to the system is we're doing the exact opposite of what the left side is. When you traditionally have an app installed into any sort of Windows environment, it permanently tattoos the system, and a lot of times the remove controls and the remove package uninstall, if you will, they leave many things behind, and they modify traditionally any of those system folders or system 32 and other files, including the registry. And that's where you start to get machines that slow down over time, especially when applications are updated. Maybe they leave a lot of files behind even then, or when they're uninstalled, they leave files behind. So back to the message of this webinar, really why you should try to keep your base images as clean as possible, keep apps out of them, is so you do not permanently tattoo the system and suffer from this Windows image rot, as the industry's called that, over time. And that's just, any machine getting slower and slower and slower, and having more and more conflicts as time goes along. If you look at the way FlexApp 1 and FlexApp, the traditional FlexApp, they work very similar. There's a filter driver that makes the app look like it's installed. Go back to that previous slide for a second. All those same files in the system remain untouched. So your base image stays pristine, it stays clean, and you don't have the Windows rot that you see. The filter driver makes it look like the files are there, but indeed they're not. The system stays clean. Next slide. If you're wondering when to use FlexApp and when to use FlexApp 1, this is a good comparison there. So FlexApp 1 being the self-contained version of our application attachment. So you've packaged up an app, maybe it's an Adobe Creative Suite, the whole thing, or one piece of it, or any app that you like. We have a very high compatibility rating to do that with, and you want to distribute it out. There's several cases where you could use either FlexApp 1 or FlexApp, and that's you get the main benefits of keeping those images pristine and clean. Where you want to attach an app, make it look like it's native to the system. You want to take advantage of some of the other features. It's very fast to package. You only have to package it one time. Apps don't break when you start going to a different operating system if the app supports it. So does FlexApp. When you look at the way that the user's connected and when they need access to that, that's when you move down to the next section of connectivity and distribution. How do you want to get those packages out, and how is the user connected? So if the user is an offline only a person with a laptop that is a managed laptop, and most corporate laptops are these days, they're a good candidate to get FlexApp 1 packages, for instance, to where they don't have to be attached to any kind of infrastructure. Maybe they have a poor internet connection. As cited earlier in the presentation, over 14 million people in the United States alone have really poor or slow internet connections. So that would be a good case for FlexApp 1 to be able to do that. If you want to take advantage of the trigger points and the very in-depth context awareness settings of that our Liquidwear Profile Unity console, which is a shared console with FlexApp, gives you, that's a good reason to keep it as a FlexApp managed solution. That way you get all those control mechanisms that we have long been known for in that area for application deployment and distribution. And then the advanced use cases, they follow down below. If you have application rights management you'd like to be coupled in with your rule sets and things like that, maybe you need to elevate privileges for an application, for example, or you want to assign an application to a group of individuals and you want to restrict it for some reason by 1 or 2, you can do that there. There's other ways to do that as well, by the way. And if you need to maybe do some registry fix up, so it's easy to package apps, you can still go back in, you can modify them, you can add registry keys. But if you want to do that in our user environment management, that's a good time to use FlexApp, the full version of FlexApp and the console that we have. Now, if you want to fully and centrally track the inventory of all the FlexApps distributed, that central console gives you the full power to do that. And it gives you role-based access and auditing and a lot of other things that many enterprises would really need, and then to use the edge use cases for FlexApp 1. But the choice is yours when you package it up. It's one extra step to make it a self-contained file. Next slide, please. So Jack, let's share this one, but we've talked about this slide in the past, you and I together, but when you would want to use FlexApp and Citrix App Layering, and I asked, Jack's input here, because Jack, you've had customers that looked at using FlexApp with Citrix App Layering, but they focused Citrix App Layering more on their image management, didn't they?
That's correct. Yeah, they use the Citrix App Layering for the core operating system, the patching, or what would you call the base layer and the platform layer. That's where they focused the most. When it came to the more, again, as I said at the beginning, the onesie twosie applications or those last mile applications, that's where FlexApp came into play. So the image was already done, the image was already deployed and provisioned, and we came in and just would drop in, that last bit of applications or the last mile applications, so that I didn't have to manage another 20 pools. Because with that, the Citrix model, it's compiling an image and that's a pool, and another image and that's a pool, and that's another image and a pool. Even with some of the elastic layering, that's kind of our native format, not a secondary. So we help with that last mile application, and then decoupling the operating system that you're delivering to from the app. So you might have a new pool that you're working with that might be the 21H2 build, but you did all your applications on 1909. That's fine. The applications will still work.
Yeah, I get the elastic layering was something that a lot of people tend to be interested in from Unidesk and from Citrix App Layering, and there's a chance your app can be elastically layered, go between systems and things like that with that. But if you want to make sure that all your packages are able to be elastically layered, in other words, we can go across operating system versions, so you don't have to repackage apps at all, and they always work. They're truly decoupled from the OS. Like I said, if the vendor supports the new operating system, in this case, let's say Windows 11, and it was supported and documented, then the chance of it working is like 99% with FlexApp. If you had packaged it for Windows 10 or even 7, but you want to use our best practices and package for the majority, whatever the majority of your desktops look like in those cases. But that's why sometimes we're used with Citrix App Layering, where they focus on the patch management of the OS and leave the applications to us. And in this case, Jack is going to see and just have a little bit of an open discussion. And I don't have a slide in this deck on this, but we've got some new innovations coming too, and Jack may want to talk about those as well. Many people are familiar with Chocolatey out there to be able to do Windows application updates and how that's being adopted out there in general. And they're also familiar with Microsoft has noticed Chocolatey, it seems, and they've got a new solution, Winget, that will help you keep your applications up to date, or at least be able to look toward a repository and make sure that you're getting the most recent copies of that. Jack's even done some work with that. Jack, I don't know if you wanted to demo that first, or I'm still in your thunder, but I'll turn it over to you for what you'd like to show, some of our advanced features.
Okay. So like what Jason was saying, there is a way for our automation engine to interact with Winget using scripts and things like that. So if we go up to community.liquidwear.com under FlexApp and FlexApp automation, there are pre-built scripts out there for automation using things like Chocolatey. And it's pretty simple, and just kind of modify a couple of the different parts and pieces, make secret password files, because you don't want those password files being shot around in clear text, and you go. Now, what you would do is you'd fill out a CSV with the applications that you might want to update through Chocolatey. This is going to go in and it's going to check against your inventory of the Profile Unity server. So in my case, my inventory has applications-name, and it's going to go and see if the application exists and if the version that's out there is newer or the same as the version that I have out on Chocolatey. So this allows me to go through and sequence a bunch of what I like to call publicly traded applications that you can find up on those distro engines and keep your applications up to date, because those are pretty simple applications that have, silent switch installers, and you don't really need to sit there and go next, finish. In fact, I got about 15 or 20 of these applications that I just run through. And if there's an update, cool, it updates them. Now I'm not going to go through the whole entire sequencing thing. Actually, I'm not going to go through the whole entire sequencing thing right now, but it shoots it out to my various different nodes, and you can have as many nodes as you want. So obviously more nodes, faster the sequencing procedure happens because you have more nodes to do the work, which in turn, after the sequence is done, it rolls back the image and gets ready for the next job to come through. Those applications then show up in your inventory and are available for you to assign and deliver to your user base. So that is one part of the things that we've been doing here at Liquidware to make things easier for you, because we understand that, cool, I would love to get into your FlexApp technology, but at the same time, I just don't have the time to sit there and do next, finish type things for every single thing we've done. And we're really taking that into consideration, and we're really thinking about those types of things. So much so that if I come back over here to my UI and go into my build here, this is actually our 6.8.5 release that should be out sometime around end of June, early July. But you notice some things in here that are not Liquidware owned: MSIX, AppV, AppStream. What we've been hearing from our customers is, well, we've already kind of gone down this route of an application sequencing, and it'd be really difficult for us to change gears right now. Is there something that we can do to kind of like slowly step into the newer technologies while at the same time still supporting some of our older technologies or different technologies? And that's what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to go, well, yeah, I mean, if you still want to distribute an AppV or do some MSIX applications or integrate into other technologies beyond just our FlexApps, you absolutely can do that. We are going to support that ability to intermix FlexApp with the traditionally installed applications with an MSIX or an AppV or whatever. However, if you're like, okay, that's cool, but maybe I need to, I've already done the sequencing. Can you just like convert them over? And the answer will also be, yeah, absolutely. I want to convert AppVs, and we can take multiple AppVs and put them into our pathing and convert all of those AppV applications over into a FlexApp format type. So you don't really have to then resequence things that you've already done, or MSIX. We have both options there. We also can make it a cloud type package with a cloud target versus a on-prem target, and we can even make it sequence it into a FlexApp 1 too. So if you're like, I'd like a traditional FlexApp, a FlexApp 1, convert this over. We're allowing you to kind of go from or integrate with whatever it is you have. So we're not forcing you to choose one thing or another or overnight conversion type things. We're pretty much saying whichever method it is that you want to go from A to B, we're going to support it, but we also have our own methodology around application layering, and at some point you may want to move to that if you don't want an application that's isolated from the operating system, something a little more native. So instead of fighting against the gigantic monster that is Microsoft, we're just going to embrace it and go, you can do what you want to do, and we will manage it. So sequencing, whether that be through an automation engine or through a manual procedure, is very simple. We'll do the manual version here, and we'll call this test. Another thing we're adding into our next iteration is version tagging, which I'm super excited about. So I'm not going to make a FlexApp 1 out of this, but I could if I needed to, and I'm just going to hit create. And what happens here is it creates a VHDX out on the file share. So basically you kind of consider this, it's already an elastic layer mode, right? Because it already made a volume here ready to roll. I'll hit start, and then I can install whatever applications it is that I need to install. So in this case here, we'll do something from 2001, and we'll do a quick installation of 64-bit 7Z. Now keep in mind, I'm only doing 7Z because it's quick. I'm not doing 7Z because, oh, that's an easy app. Of course, all you guys can do easy applications. Some of the more complex applications that I've personally sequenced have been ArcGIS, AutoCAD, Tableau, Mathematica, let's see, Epic Hyperspace Client, you name it. There's just tons and tons and tons. Visual Studio 17 and 19, the SQL Studio tools. I mean, these are things that even Microsoft's own sequencing methods have issues doing, and we are able to do that within FlexApp here. So, all right, so that package is done. Actually, I unchecked oh yeah, there we go. And we are also adding in a rollback function. So I don't even have to go and roll back my snapshots or give the packaging team access to vCenter or whatever to roll back my images. Now I can do that within the guest operating system. This is on desktop operating systems. So now that application is sequenced, I can go over here to my inventory management, and there's my test application right there. To assign said application, I may create a filter based on the simple stuff like groupings or various different conditions that I choose. So I'm not limited to user group machine. I can do anything here. Then go into my configuration, click add, wrap that filter around whatever it is that I want to wrap that filter around, and drag and drop the application or applications in that I may want to do. Another thing is you see there's some options here. Click to layer, cache block locally, and then there's another thing called predictive cache block caching or predictive block caching. That's another feature that's coming in our 6.8.5. Click to layer and cache is there. So what those components do is click to layer basically says put a stub down for the application, but don't actually mount the volume to the operating system and activate the application. Just make it there, but don't start it. Don't make it available. Cache block local was the original intent of that was for cloud-based storage, but we also co-opted it into SMB storage types. And what that does is when you double click on the application, it then pulls the blocks necessary for the application to function. It caches those blocks. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, then why FlexApp 1? What's the point here? The point is that FlexApp 1 is actually the entirety of the application versus just the addressed blocks that are required. So what could technically happen is if you bring that application offline and then you try to address a block that it does not have, that application could technically break. Now, on the flip side, what does predictive block caching then mean? Well, predictive block caching is that when I go through the sequencing procedure of my application, I can then go back and start opening up things and pre-caching, or say these blocks are what needs to be pre-cached. So instead of double clicking and waiting for it to come down, when it layers down into the operating system, it'll immediately start pulling down the blocks that is required. So when I double click on that application, those blocks are there. It's ready to roll. So that is all in all the different options, and we keep expanding the options on stuff that we do. So here I have 21 applications, and normally people will think, wow, that must really slow down your logins. And in fact, it really doesn't, because we do the layers in parallel to the login process. So let's go ahead and log on to my system. And for those who are Profile Unity customers, you'll notice one interesting thing that will show up here in just a moment. It is our #1 feature request for 10 years running. Actually, I think it was a feature request before I even started 10 years ago. And let's see if you can spot it. Oh, there we go. And for those who are not familiar with Profile Unity, we can actually change the logos now in our splash screen. So normally this would say Profile Unity, and now I can modify that, and that's actually an animated GIF in the background there. So if you wanted to put your company's logo on there so that, when the user see a splash screen, they're like, what the heck is Liquidware? Now it can be your medical facility, your financial company, or whatever it is that you are, as logo in there so that they see that splash screen, not the Liquidware splash screen. So with that all said here, once the workstation comes up, I probably have too many workstations running at this point in time, and probably really running a risk of running my beta code. Yeah. I would have applications, and of course that's my fault for running beta code during this demo here. So.
Jack, were you able to show that recorded video I had earlier?
No.
We can go back to that if you want to in the deck.
Let's see if that actually works. I have to hit play, or does it just go?
You have to hit play. You'll see that mouse moving. I recorded this the other day before I hit the road. There it goes. In this case, we're going to show FlexApp 1 real quick. So this is a desktop. It's got a few things in the base image. And this is where I was talking about self-contained applications, being able to attach them without the entire infrastructure of Liquidware Profile Unity, which Jack's been showing you has so many robust features. But I wonder if it paused, Jack. There it goes.
Oh, I did, sorry.
So in this case, I've been sent some FlexApp 1 self-contained files from my administrator, and I've kept them in OneDrive, so they'll follow me wherever I go. And they always stay in sync then by following me desktop to desktop. And see these executables, that's not the executable of the installer. This is a FlexApp 1 application. Everything needed is in that one Camtasia file, for example. When I open it up there, and I right-clicked on it so you could see open, it's going to run our filter driver for the first time. That's embedded in there. You need that on the endpoint. It's not a heavy player. It's not a heavy agent. It is a very lightweight driver, and now it's kicked in. And as soon as that happens, Camtasia will launch. If you know anything about Camtasia, you'll know it's quite a complex application. It needs audio drivers and everything needed in it. And it's how I record a lot of demos that I do, and how we recorded a special event we did a couple of weeks ago, the Liquidwear Lounge. I'm able to I'm running this just as if it's a traditionally installed app, but it is not in the base image. You'll see how it keeps base images clean in a moment. But I'm going to first play around with a few other things here and show you it runs as native. The other applications that I have in this environment are the full Creative Suite is in here too. Adobe Creative Suite, that's a monster of an application to install. I think it paused again, Jack.
It's about fully installed, 30 gig.
Yeah, I think the video paused. If you can hit play again or the space bar. So closing that down, let me open up Adobe Creative Suite. It opens just as fast. It was not in the system until now, and it's not really in the system. I'll show you that in a moment. This represents an individual or offline laptop that I'm doing this for. You can also do this with your Citrix-based images too. You can deploy these packages. Right now I'm running a script to attach all of those applications in the background, and they even show up in the start menu. And now I've got all those applications you see there. Even that old version of Windows Pinball is in there. Full Creative Suite in there, including Photoshop. Look how responsive it is. And it's huge. Running it just as if it's native. It is not installed, and it's not trashing the base image of this machine. FlexApp, the full version of FlexApp works the same way, by the way, keeping your base images clean. Here's another one, Inkscape, that I'm running. And that filter driver that came in with that first app, once it was on the machine, it's able to run all these apps in this environment. So I'm going to show you how it keeps the base images clean here Spacebar. There you go. If I look over here, running Inkscape, just showing you how it opens. I'm also going to show you that in the add remove programs, they'll actually show up there in the add remove programs. I haven't hit refresh yet, but the minute I hit refresh, you'll see some of these apps are actually showing that they're in the environment. They're running native is my point. They could talk to other apps. This is not app isolation like AppV or anything else. There's Creative Suite, Camtasia's in there, Inkscape you see in there, and others. They look like they're in the system, but the filter driver is what's doing the magic. They're self-contained and they're on the VHDX. Now look at this. When an application installs anything, it puts files and program files, to my point earlier, and it can start to trash your system. Well, those files need to be in there to run. TechSmith is the one for Camtasia, and this one in here for Creative Suite. Look at all these files in here. They look like they're in here. But there's an extra little feature in here. I can actually stop applications as an end user. And you see the Adobe file that's right there? When I go down here and I right click and I stop, watch the Adobe file. Watch it disappear. It's gone. All those files that looked like they were there are not there. The base image is crisp, clean, and it doesn't suffer from Windows rot. And that's how you keep the apps portable in there. So that's a demo of FlexApp 1, but FlexApp, the full version of FlexApp works much the same way. Images are always kept extremely clean.
Thank you. That
concludes the demo, and because I was showing that from Jack's machine, he probably didn't get a chance to reset anything. But
yeah, it's all good.
Stephanie, did we ask that poll question?
Sorry, not yet. I couldn't get the mute button to click. I can run it for you now if you're ready.
Yeah, that'd be great. We asked, how many images do you have in your Citrix environment? And we gave some multiple choices in here and some brackets. Do you have one? Now, I'm highly doubtful anybody's going to say one, unless they have FlexApp already, then that's possible. 2 to 5 or 6 or more. If you're an enterprise, you would have a lot. So be honest, please let us know by selecting that, and we'll look at the results here in a moment.
I'll give everybody just a couple more seconds to answer. It's interesting. There's like neck and neck there.
Nice. Well, when we talk about apps, there are some apps you'd want to put in the base image. It wasn't really clickbait for the average. It was a little bit of clickbait for the title of this, but there are some apps that you might want to put in your base images. Like if everybody needs access to Microsoft Office, for example, that's a good candidate to put in the base image. You could FlexApp it, but why would you want to when everyone needs access to it? Oh, these results are really great to see. 10% have one. Wow. But most people have at least 5 or 6. So 47% to 43% have a lot, and 6 or more may be the outlier there where there's a ton at the upper end. Probably is. But the point is that when you're attaching applications to your environment with FlexApp, you can dramatically lower that number and get it down to as little as possible. Maybe not 1, but you can get it down a lot lower. So you take your generic, crisp, clean images. You, instead of having, for example, with XenApp, instead of having 10 different base images for 10 different departments, with FlexApp, you can attach and have session isolation for each department. So HR can't see what the accounting apps are and vice versa. They don't even see them in their environments, and they run as native, and that's the way to keep the base images clean. Jack?
What you're seeing here is those 20 some odd applications running as if they're native, right? So running Google Chrome here, just fire up and go. Fire up Visual Studio, that'll run. So all of the applications are layered down onto this operating system all on the fly. So I have all these 20 some odd applications. Some of them are going to be click to layered onto the operating system. So I may not need Firefox right away. I'll go ahead and double click on that, and you'll see down here, down the old Darth here, the disk is attaching on the fly to the operating system, and then the application becomes available on demand. So some at login, some on demand. We're even going to have trigger points and delayed start applications, and we can even do applications at boot. So we have all available opportunities or timings for you to be able to attach your applications to the operating system when you want to attach them.
Nice. Impressive with that many applications. We've got some of our SCs that show hundreds of applications coming in, being attached. But reality is closer to 20 applications, I would argue. So Jack's demonstration there is much closer to the reality of any Windows environment, having anywhere from 10 to 20 applications that would be attached.
Right. Yep.
Have we seen any questions come in, Stephanie?
We do have a few in, actually. I'll read off a few of the good ones, if that's
Oh,
okay.
thanks.
So a question here from Henry that says, we have add-ons that install into both Adobe Acrobat and Microsoft Office, and really the questions around how FlexApp sort of manages those DLLs and configuration issues, and what you'd need to do to make that work.
Yeah. If the DLL or if the add-on can be added independent and does not do a check for Office or Adobe, then it's easy, super easy. You just install it, right? And then it's going to interact with the applications that are already existent in the operating system. For example, like I can do an Outlook plugin by itself. Well, I have Outlook in the base image, and I may have Outlook installed on my sequencing workstation, so I kind of have a prereq item in there. So when it installs, it'll just layer the application down into the operating system, and Outlook should be able to see it. Just restart Outlook, or usually it'll layer in before Outlook is even opened. Same thing with Adobe. Now, if it's something that, or Adobe and Office, if it's one of those applications that the plugins always work with Adobe or are in conjunction with Adobe, you may want to put those together, and that's fine. You can do that. But again, if that application can, or those plugins can be installed independent of an Adobe check, then you just install them like normal.
Awesome.
It's files and registry.
That's a great question.
Brilliant, thank you. A question here from John is there a limit to the number of apps you can attach?
There is. I'd love to see if somebody hits it. It's 2,000.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah. If anybody gets over 50 individualized applications, please call me. I would love to see that.
Is that based on the attached disk, or is it based on something else, Jack?
The limitation of 2,000 is how many attached VHDXs can be attached to a Windows operating system.
So theoretically, if we put many apps in one disk, you could get it even higher, I guess.
As far as applications, yes. If you were to do one-to-one applications, one disk, one app, 2,000. If you want to do one disk, hundreds of apps, then limitless.
Awesome, thank you. Another question that's come in here around sort of security tooling and sort of software that does sort of analysis on an endpoint or those sorts of aspects. Would you recommend those would be dealt with in FlexApp, or would they go into like a
security tools? Security tools always go in the operating system.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, and there's a reason why. You don't want this. You got to keep in mind the way an application attaches to the operating system. It's kind of like it's like jumping in a car that's already running down the highway. You kind of want the security tool in the operating system when the system boots, not when the user happens to log in.
Yeah.
So.
Question here around how updating works. Specifically, this question is around obviously this particular person who's asked the question is using SCCM, but obviously, just keen to find out what the update process is like in FlexApp.
Sure. So there's two ways to do updates. You can do an update where you do an in-place upgrade. I'm not a big fan of it, just because I feel that sort of makes the operating system or the package dirty. But I do understand that there are some applications that is the only way to do the update is, you have to add a patch onto an existing application. So if that is the case, that's fine. We'll take that test application here, and what you'll do is you can extend it or first clone it, but in this case, since I don't have it assigned, I'm just going to extend it, which basically says, hey, application, we're going to put you back in record mode. And maybe it's a different version iteration. Now this will have a 1 on it. And I'm not making a FlexApp 1, and create. So now that the application is going to be added back onto the sequencing workstation, I just hit start and I install whatever patches and things like that I need to. If, however, like most applications, it does an uninstallation of said software, then I would recommend you install it fresh. Then when it comes to the back end part of that conversation, then it's just a matter of going into the system and saying, all right, well, I have VS Code. I'm going to take the old version of VS Code out, put in, new version of VS Code out, save, deploy out, and on non-persistent workstations, kind of a given, right? They go away. On persistent workstations, the user logs off, the application's removed. So when they log in next time, the application's added back in. With FlexApp 1, that's a different thing altogether. There's a command called replace, more or less. So what it does is it uses the, I believe, the core application that is already in the operating system and then replaces it with your alternate version of the package, and then fires that up and registers that to the operating system. So there's a couple different ways to go through the upgrade procedure, but obviously the two during the sequencing is, clone and update or make new, and then it's just swap.
Brilliant.
That's pretty much
Thank
it. Yeah.
Another question here that's come in was, what does the actual architecture look like? So what sort of, if you were looking to put this into an environment, what components would you need to actually, provision to do that in terms of servers, storage?
Yeah. Well, you need approximately 17 servers, 3 data centers, and a partridge in a pear tree. No, I think this is actually kind of funny because when I pull up architecture, people go, "That's it." You need a Pro U box and file shares, and I don't mean
Profile Unity box is any Windows server, right?
Correct, and I don't even mean redundant Profile Unity. I mean one Profile Unity server. And the reason why that is that when we are using the Profile Unity client itself, it reads a configuration off of a file share. The file share is usually a distributed file share system or a clustered file share system of some kind, if you do it that way. And then it's just a matter of client reads config processes applications off the file share, done. So we're not calling to the Profile Unity server for anything other than licensing. That's it. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so it's pretty straightforward. This is the full version of Profile Unity with FlexApp. So the central console is what I'm calling the Profile Unity console, because it shares that console. It has context-aware filters. It lets you do registry settings and other things when you have the full version in there. And so it's accessible through any web browser. Basically, that's how you're getting to that interface where Jack was showing, how you can slice and dice and all the features, and then it writes a configuration back. But we know what's even better than this is FlexApp 1 is 0 additional architecture. It is the filter driver has to be on the endpoint. You saw it run in my demo, and there is nothing else needed. So that's pretty cool. There's no server or anything. You could actually package up and have a packaging machine, and that could be any kind of virtual machine like a VMware workstation or Hyper-V or anything else, and mimic the operating system. And once it's packaged up, you have that application that goes out there that rings true on the endpoint, and there's no additional infrastructure in that case.
Yep.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah. So no, not 17 million servers, really just a Pro U box and file shares. And that's about it. And expand your file shares as wide as you want. That's how we expand. So we expand naturally with the infrastructure of the file shares.
Brilliant. Thank you. Just one other question as well. Does FlexApp provide any sort of elements of things like software that requires machine licensing, or sort of are there any constraints around activation or anything like that, and so how does it deal with those sorts of things?
I like to always say to my customers, I'm not in the business of helping you hack your licenses. It depends on the vendor. I'll use kind of the most difficult ones out there that I've encountered. Anything with FlexApp Licensing, and that's a lot of them. That's pretty much any of the AutoCADs and your Tableaus of the world. How does that happen? How does that work? I believe that a lot of those technologies are pushing away from their sort of KMS type model to an online sign-in type model. And then that's a matter of a question that you have with the vendor of the software. Can I have this on multiple systems, or am I locked to the 5, right? And Microsoft has this, Adobe has this particular predicament. So it's just a matter of how do you negotiate the type of license that you get from your vendor? Because when you do register, let's say Adobe or AutoCAD or whatever, Office, I guess, against machine 1 through 5, when you hit machine 6, it'll go, you've outrun your machines that you can install this on, because technically it's installed on 5 machines, right? That's the way it's seen. There are always like user-based licensings out there, or not always, but there usually is user-based licensing out there where it's like, it doesn't matter how many machines this is on. It's based on the user, and the user can float from machine to machine. Microsoft has it, they call it shared compute licensing. Adobe, I think, has user-based licensing. And then I believe AutoCAD also does have user-based licensing. At least that's the model they're moving towards, because they realize that computers are kind of disposable these days, but software might move with the person or with the user.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
No other questions. No, it's been really good. Thank you.
That's great. Well, Jake, I thank you for the moderation, and it's nice to be on here with you and Stephanie and Jack today. We appreciate our all of you. We really value the Citrix user group community, and I'm proud to always reiterate that we were one of the first 4 or 8, Stephanie, to say yes, we will sponsor the Citrix user group community. That's been several years ago though, when this new iteration of CUGC came out, right? But we've been all in since then, and it's a community that we very much value. And thank you to the members attending today.
Yes, thank you. I always like to point out that Liquidware is like our BFF, right? You've been with us the entire step of the way. It's great. So thank you. And thank all you guys for attending today. I just had a couple of announcements that I didn't get to at the top of the hour because I wanted to dive right in. But I do want to remind you that our first in-person XL event is happening in just a couple of weeks. We're really excited. It's in Kansas City, and hopefully some of you can make plans to attend. That would be great. It's a free day, all day long at the Arrowhead Stadium, and all you have to do is get there. So hopefully we'll see some of you guys there. All right, so I know that some of you may have opted in for a chance to win a Lego Star Wars Rise of Skywalker Millennium Falcon. I think I'm just gonna award it to myself. Is that fair? But
I'm back there.
I will pull the attendee report as soon as I shut down this webinar, and we will randomly select a winner. I like to use the Google number randomizer. So I will do that right away. And if you're the winner, you'll get an email from me. And I'll also announce it on Twitter. So make sure you follow us out there at MyCUGC. All right, well, thank you, Jack, and thank you, Jason, and thank you, Jake. It's the J's today.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you soon at your events. I think Jack's gonna actually attend one or two of those in his region.
City. I will be at the XL.
Sweet.
And we're getting back out on the road too. Liquidware live events are keep in tune for when those are happening. They're VIP events, but anybody with a Citrix Enterprise is welcome to join us today. Actually, tomorrow we're doing a game in Boston, the Red Sox game. We did one in Atlanta, and those seats are taken. But that's just to let you know that we are out back there doing events, and look for those invitations. We'd love to meet you on the road soon.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I guess we'll see you guys at another webinar soon. Next week we have a user share webinar. That's an unsponsored webinar. It's just one of our community members. So you can take a look at our events calendar to get the details on that. I think it's about protecting Citrix Gateway, excuse me. And then our Excel event. So hopefully we'll see you guys out there, and hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.